Welcome back. This is episode 246 of the Veterinary Business video show. In this episode, we'll learn how pet owners are increasingly looking for more and more ways to interact with veterinary practices, and we'll hear some advice about to-do lists and the needless anxiety they can create. We'll learn how to stop the drama and do the work. We'll hear about a veterinary medical ethical issue for the 21st century, and I'll offer you my quick business tip for this episode. I'm John Sheridan, and this is the video show from Veterinary Business. Today we tend to think of innovation in veterinary practice as being linked with rapidly developing technological change, the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, wearable technology and telemedicine, all impacting on the science of veterinary medicine and the delivery of professional veterinary services. I'm not qualified to comment on the clinical stuff, but throughout my career in the profession, individually and collectively, veterinary practice owners have been at the forefront of innovative change in the management and service delivery side of practice. In this clip, Joel Parker of Veterinary Practice Solutions discusses how pet owners are increasingly looking for more and more ways to interact with veterinary practices and how practice owners offer them a range of innovative tools and techniques to stay ahead of the game.
This week we're talking about innovation follows friction. Okay, and what I mean by friction is this new kind of buzzword that I really dig, and it has to do with the irritation that clients experience in working with your practice and the irritation that you find working with clients and so forth. And what you're going to find here, the goal here moving forward now with the new millennial pet owners and the next generation beyond that is that they're all looking for frictionless interaction with veterinary practices. And this may be the use of a new app like the Vet2Pet app. It could be used to house calls. It could be used to after hours delivery of pet foods, all these sort of things that actually make the pet owner's life easier and better. In my practice, we started doing some things such as, if we could do the procedure on the same day that they came in for a wellness exam. For example, let's say in a wellness exam we discovered a lump or some dental cleaning that we could do without a lot of antibiotics on board beforehand, then we would have all of our wellness exams come in on an empty stomach. So if it was before 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we could touch them down with a little bit of propofol and do a really quick procedure and get them out the door. And the most interesting thing is that the clients love that. That's an example of removing friction. Booking an appointment, for example, a patient comes in and you book the appointment for 2 weeks later to come back for the lump removal or what have you, that's an example of creating friction, creating barriers with clients. Not knowing where the parking is, not being open early enough, for example. Let's say that you living, your practice is in a bedroom community where people are leaving at 7 o'clock in the morning to get to work by 9 or what have you, and you don't open till 9, then you've missed a window where people could stop in on their way to the office, drop their pet off, and come home after 4 or 5 o'clock and pick them up. So, expanding your hours is another example of becoming a frictionless office. Okay? So, action steps here, guys. Start looking for the areas of frictions and irritations in your practice. There's a couple ways of doing that. Just look at yourself. If you're working all day, how easy would it be for you to take your pet to a veterinarian or for you to get into a dental appointment, things like that? How easy is it for clients to get in to see you? Things like that. You start looking around for that. Okay? Work out solutions, right? And this is where it gets to be really fun and creative. For example, if we had snow in our practice, then our solution to create a frictionless practice was to hop in the four-wheel drive, the practice four-wheel drive vehicle, which was a Nissan Pathfinder at the time, and go and visit clients. And clients really love that. And certainly for euthanasias and those very, very sad moments, it is much more frictionless to go and see the client and take care of their beloved dog or their cat or even a little hamster, whatever the case may be these days, right? And then bring them back to the office. Do whatever it takes to help the client out. Another really great thing to do is to go and look at your reviews online and look at your reviews, look at your competitor reviews, and you'll see the friction points right there. So you can use those as examples to work around and redesign your practice to work out solutions and become a friction-free practice.
Now let's see who's on the video show soapbox. I use a very simple to-do list to keep track of all the various home and business jobs and projects that I'm involved in. But now in my semi-retired role, I don't take it all that seriously, and any item which has been on the list for weeks or months without being done is simply deleted and forgotten. A search for to-do lists on Google generated, can you believe it, 12,000 million, that's 12 trillion links in less than a second. So there must be millions of people in the world sitting at their desks, worried and frustrated because their self-imposed tasks aren't being dealt with. If you're one of them, you could simply delete it from your laptop, or better still, heed this advice from Dave Nichol.
I have a to-do list, and it's a pretty epic to-do list. Like, there's a lot of stuff I want to get done. There are a lot of projects I work on. There's a lot of people I help. And I have this disease called pioneer time, which means I expect things to get done twice as fast as they do, and usually at half the price. And I think we have a version of this in veterinary medicine and in any high-achieving sense, where we create a to-do list, and when we achieve that to-do list, that generates a sense of self-worth, a sense of satisfaction, a sense that we did some good, meaningful work in the world. And if we don't achieve it, then we have this sense of failure, of dissatisfaction. And if that continues long enough, then it can become an anxiety that we're just not getting done what it is we need to get done. And what does that mean? And what implications does that have for us? And all this storytelling garbage starts to happen. But in veterinary practices, what we've done is we've set ourselves up to cater to or pander to the urgent work of the day. And so everything that is clinical is urgent. And it seems important to us. And it is important to an extent. But just endlessly doing dentals or surgeries or looking after clients, we know that that is a mode of suffering for an individual, because you're not catering to some of the other important things. Like, are you doing dentals well every day? That's urgent work. The important work is to improve your dental skills so that you can feel like you're doing a good job every day, because then it becomes a joy. The important work is to have time out to do training, have time out to read journals, have time out to go on continuing education, to get better, to practice your skills. Are you spending all of your time working hard so you're so exhausted on your day off that you don't actually have the energy to go out and do the important work of managing your tax affairs, getting a haircut, going to the gym, having time for you, looking after your health, cooking healthy meals? None of that is urgent until the deadline comes around or until you break, and then it becomes urgent, really important work. So the way out of that is to plan the important and to schedule the important into your diary in the same way that operations are given.
Now for a tip from the top in the business world of veterinary practice. Today's tip from the top is from Ed Musio, CEO of Group Harmonics, and it will be of particular value if you're a practice owner or manager struggling to sort out the drama which seems to blow up all too frequently in veterinary practice between individual members of the practice team, or between cliques or groups of your employees, perhaps between the vets and the nurses, or between the reception team members and the clinicians.
Hi, I'm Edward Musio, CEO of Group Harmonics, and I'm going to tell you how to stop the drama and do the work. Is there too much drama in your workplace? In the late 1960s, a psychologist named Stephen Cartman defined what he called the drama triangle. The drama triangle is a set of 3 interrelated, scripted roles that tell us how to behave to create drama. We'll start down here with the persecutor. The persecutor is the mean, nasty person, we'll draw with horns here and a pitchfork, who takes advantage. He or she is evil, abuses people, abuses resources. Then over here we have the poor, sad victim. The victim, who here is getting hit by a hammer, is helpless to prevent any trouble from happening and is taken advantage of by the persecutor. Finally up here we have our hero. The rescuer comes in wearing a cape with a big smile on his face. He's heroic and he saves the day. The rescuer stops the persecutor from taking advantage of the victim, who asks the rescuer for help. You can start anywhere in the triangle, and it doesn't matter. Now, we know these scripted roles well. We know them very well. Think about it. When you read about Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf, do you ever stop to ask why the Big Bad Wolf chased after Little Red Riding Hood? No. That's what persecutors do. That's what victims do. You know how the story goes. You don't need any more information. That's the problem with scripted roles in the workplace. Scripted roles are not equal to information transfer. In fact, scripted roles are the opposite of information transfer. We work in the information age. Information transfer is equal to work. In other words, when we're having drama with scripted roles, we're not doing the work. Let's take an example of this. Let's say you're a manager and you have 2 employees. One of your employees comes to you and says, I need your help. The other employee, employee 2, won't get me the numbers and the data I need on time every week. I can't do my job. I tried to ask him for help, and he was mean and rude. What's happening here? Basically, employee 1 is saying, I'm helpless. Employee 2 is persecuting me. Will you help me? As the manager, your natural instinct might be to say, sure, I'll help you. I'll talk to employee 2 for you. There you go. You're going to be the rescuer. The stage is set for drama. Now what happens? Well, you probably call employee 2 into your office. You're the manager, and you say to employee 2, you better shape up. You better start to do what you need to do, or there are going to be consequences. Next thing you know, you've framed employee 2 as the victim, and you as the manager have become the persecutor. What happens next? Employee 2 leaves the room. Then what? Employee 2 might turn back to employee 1 and say, you need to help me. You caused trouble for me with the manager. Now you need to rescue me. Or employee 2 might say to employee 1, you thought you had problems before. Now you're really going to have problems and become an even stronger persecutor. It doesn't matter. We can move the tickets around all over the board all day long. The point is, we have scripted roles, we're doing drama, we're not doing work. So how do we get out of this? The trick is, when you notice any of these roles come up, you want to immediately start to think, act, and speak as if the role isn't real. How does that work in our initial situation? Remember, we had employee 2 as the persecutor who was not giving the data to employee 1 when he needed it, and you as the manager were going to rescue? How do we do this? The role isn't real. Let's start with employee 1. What if employee 1 is not helpless? Employee 1 could get the data somewhere else, look for different data, ask in a different way for the information, ask at a different time. What options appear? What if employee 2 is not evil? What if employee 2 doesn't have the data, doesn't know how to get it, doesn't know how important it is, has too many other priorities and is too busy? What options does that suggest? Finally, you as the manager. What if you as the manager are not heroic? What if you're not going to be the only person who comes in and saves the day? Who else might get involved? Is there somebody else with different information? Can you encourage them to work it out amongst themselves? What other options do you have? Notice what's happening here. We're talking now about options. Alternatives for problem solving to get the work done. We've moved away from scripted roles and away from drama. So the next time you or someone you work with is starting to act like a persecutor, act like a victim, or act like a rescuer, as quickly as you can, start to think and act as if the role isn't real. See what options present themselves. When you do, you'll be more likely to solve the problem, more likely to do work, more likely to stop the drama.
Now for my quick business tip for this episode. My quick business tip today was triggered by this clip from Mark Rosenberg and featured on the dvm360.com website. It concerns a veterinary medical ethical issue for the 21st century.
There are always ethical issues, but there is one that I think is particularly a 21st century issue, and that is that we now, as our colleagues in human medicine we have very sophisticated medical options and testing. And they can be lucrative, to tell you the truth. And now and then a veterinarian has to determine just how intricate and how many of these options have to be offered to a pet owner and then obviously recommended. And I think this has to be done in conjunction with full disclosure with the pet owner, and not necessarily always seeing possibly there might be a dollar sign in the future. And that's an ethical challenge. Fortunately, many of the veterinarians I speak to have met that challenge in a very professional manner.
So what's my quick business tip? Well, it's this. There's no easy answer, but during my years as a practice owner, I was very conscious of the potential problems associated with what we described as over-vetting on the one hand or under-vetting on the other. The way we handled it was for all the vets in the practice to spend some time together talking about individual conditions or patients to seek a consensus about the level of care which we felt was appropriate for that particular condition or patient for our particular practice, to document it as a standard clinical protocol, and then to monitor and review the outcome on a regular basis. Well, that's about it for now. I'm John Sheridan, and this has been another video show from Veterinary Business. See you next time.